In 1983, John Scully was at the peak of the corporate world as the president of PepsiCo. He had everything: money, status, and a clear path to the top. Then a young, scruffy Steve Jobs walked into his office. Jobs didn't open a folder of technical specifications or talk about the Apple II's processor speed. He didn't beg Scully to join a struggling tech company. Instead, he looked Scully dead in the eye and asked, "Do you want to sell sugared water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world?" In that single moment, the hierarchy shifted. Scully wasn't the powerful executive anymore. He was a man being offered an escape from a meaningless existence. This wasn't a sales pitch. It was a command of context. Jobs didn't convince. He repositioned the entire world so that staying at Pepsi felt like a humiliation. The weak believe sales is about manipulation, a game of tricking people into buying things they don't need. The powerful understand that sales is actually the science of control. This misunderstanding is no accident. It is a psychological shield used by the mediocre to comfort themselves. By calling sales dirty, they excuse their own inability to dictate outcomes. Niccolò Machiavelli would have recognized this cowardice instantly. He knew that people moralize what they cannot master. Sales is not the art of convincing equals. It is the establishment of a hierarchy. When a transaction feels uncomfortable, it isn't because the act itself is wrong. It is because you are standing beneath the buyer, seeking their approval instead of asserting your position. No one respects a man who asks for permission to lead a transaction. To navigate this world of power, you must understand the laws that govern human interaction. We are going to break down the 9 core laws that the top 1% use to dominate their markets. These aren't just tips. They are the structural reality of how humans make decisions. Rejection doesn't wound you because it's a no. It wounds you because it exposes your powerlessness. Every hesitation, every unnecessary just checking in email, and every premature discount is a confession. You are admitting uncertainty. And in the world of high performers, uncertainty invites resistance. Humans are not rational creatures first. We are territorial. We sense weakness long before we process logic. The central lie told to the masses is that selling is about persuasion. In reality, persuasion is what you use when authority is absent. True selling is positioning yourself as the inevitable conclusion. This is why aggressive sellers fail. Aggression is not strength, it is noise. Machiavelli warned that rulers who rely on raw force reveal their own instability. The same applies to you. The seller who pressures or rushes signals desperation, and desperation repels. Power speaks calmly. A seller in control does not chase the deal. He structures the environment so that the deal is forced to move toward him. He assumes his value. He does not prove it. Proof is for the courtroom. Dominance is for the marketplace. Before you can project this level of authority to the world, you must first resolve the conflict inside your own mind. This leads us to our first pillar of power. Principle 1 is, never sell what you do not believe in. Power cannot flow through a divided mind. A man who doubts his own offering cannot command belief from others. This isn't some woo-woo philosophy. It is pure mechanics. The most common mistake in sales isn't a weak script or a lack of charisma. It is internal disbelief. Machiavelli would call this illegitimacy. A ruler who questions his own right to rule invites a conspiracy. A seller who questions his product invites his resistance. When you try to sell something you secretly doubt, your body betrays you. Your voice tightens, your language softens, and your authority dissolves into a desperate negotiation. Humans are predators of inconsistency. We trust coherence, and we punish hesitation. If you secretly think your product is overpriced or replaceable, you will behave as if it is. No amount of training can override that internal fracture. If you want to join a growing community of men who are done with playing small and are ready to master the mechanics of power and wealth, hit the subscribe button now. We are building a tribe of high performers who understand that the world doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you command. I want to see who is actually paying attention to these lessons. Type the word command in the comments right now if you are ready to stop asking for permission and start dictating the terms of your own life. This simple affirmation locks in the mindset we are building here. But understanding the product is only half the battle. There is an even deeper level of authority that most people never reach. In the next part, we will confront the flaw that destroys more careers than lack of talent or bad luck. The fact that most men have never actually sold themselves on their own worth, and power never flows through a man who doubts his own sovereign right to lead. The internal fracture I mentioned isn't just a minor insecurity. It is a structural failure that ensures you will remain a servant. You cannot project power if you are at war with your own conscience. Niccolo Machiavelli observed that a ruler who cannot govern himself will never be able to govern others, and this law is absolute. Power does not simply pass through doubt, it leaks. Most men fail in their ambitions not because their product is weak, but because they are internally illegitimate. They ask others to commit their time, their reputation, and their capital, while they secretly know they don't live by the standards they demand from the world. This hypocrisy is felt immediately. It isn't a logical deduction, it is an animal instinct. Humans are the ultimate predators of inconsistency. We trust coherence and we punish hesitation with a cold no. This is why sales feels gross to so many people. It's not because the trade is immoral, but because they are trying to extract value from something they wouldn't proudly buy themselves. Their conscience rebels, their voice tightens, and their authority dissolves into a plea. To fix this, we must look at the foundation of the man himself. Principle 2 is, before you sell others, you must sell yourself. A man who does not believe in his own worth cannot command belief from anyone else. This is not motivational fluff. It is a structural reality. Power does not pass through a hollow man. Think of a figure like David Goggins or a high-level Navy SEAL transitioning into the business world. They don't have better closing skills because they studied a book. They have alignment. When they speak, there is no gap between their words and their life. Self-trust is built through discipline, not affirmations. Every time you lie to yourself, by hitting snooze, by quitting early, or by lowering your standards, you weaken your internal authority. And when that internal authority collapses, your external authority disappears with it. Reputation is built through repeated action, not declared virtue. You do not convince yourself with speeches. You convince yourself by doing what you said you would do when no one was watching. Once you are sold on yourself, rejection loses its sting. You stop seeking validation because your worth is no longer a subject of negotiation. Once you have mastered yourself, you can finally understand what people are actually looking for when they reach for their wallets. Principle 3 is, people do not buy products, they buy escape. The weak seller spends an hour explaining the features of a software or the specs of a service. The powerful seller exposes the consequences of the buyer's current reality. No one wakes up wanting a product. They wake up wanting relief from the quiet fear that their life is stagnating or that they are being overtaken by more aggressive rivals. Look at how the world's most successful luxury brands, like Ferrari or Hermes, operate. They don't sell transportation or leather bags. They sell the escape from being common. They sell the dignity of absolute exclusivity. Machiavelli understood that people move faster away from danger than they do toward pleasure. Your role is not to decorate your solution. It is to clarify the trap the buyer is already in. If you are selling education, you are selling leverage over a future that currently looks like a cage. Use your words as a diagnostic tool. When you name a person's problem more clearly than they can describe it themselves, they automatically assume you have the cure. This is why the elite ask questions instead of giving pitches. Questions are weapons. How long has this failure been costing you? What happens to your family if nothing changes in a year? Each question tightens the frame. Each answer sharpens the pain. You aren't being mean. You are being precise. And in a world of vague promises, precision is authority. Stop selling hope. Hope is for the weak. Sell the inevitability of change. Before we move into the mechanics of how to position yourself exactly where the money is already flowing, I want you to take a second to reflect. Most people are held back by one specific soft habit that leaks their power. Think about the last time you hesitated to ask for what you deserved. Was it because the other person was difficult, or because you weren't fully sold on your own value? Share a reflection in the comments about a time you let a lack of self-rule cost you a win. Once you have established internal legitimacy, the way you interact with the world must shift from seeking entry to granting it. Principle 4 is, do not persuade. Stand where the money stands. The weak spend their lives trying to convince others to see things their way, but the powerful simply occupy the space where the decision is already being made. Persuasion is the behavior of those who lack inherent authority and must compensate with visible, sweaty effort. Machiavelli warned that the use of force reveals a ruler's fragility, and the same is true of the hard sell. When you try too hard to convince a buyer, you are announcing that the choice is not already obvious. You are signaling that you are a salesman, not a solution. Most men are trapped by the lie that they must get the person to understand. In reality, understanding is rarely the bottleneck. Courage is. People usually know exactly what they need to do, but they lack the willingness to confront the cost of staying the same. Your role is not to argue with them. It is to occupy the position their money is already trying to find. Money is never neutral. It is like a river seeking the highest point of leverage. It flows toward outcomes, not explanations. Look at the way elite private equity titans, like those at Blackstone or KKR, operate during a hostile takeover. They don't pitch the target company on why they are nice guys. They position the deal as a strategic inevitability that is happening with or without the current management's approval. They don't beg for the capital. They allocate it. They treat the investment as a privilege. This is what it means to stand where the money stands. When a buyer hesitates, it isn't because they need more data. It's because their fear of change is currently louder than their desire for progress. If you argue with them, you are siding with their fear. If you reposition, you overpower it. You must adopt a ruthless frame. The buyer's money is currently being misallocated. It is sitting in a stagnant account or a failing strategy, places that do not produce growth. Your offer is not an expense. It is a strategic reassignment of resources. When you believe this, persuasion disappears. You are no longer asking them to buy. You are guiding their capital toward its highest use. This is why elite performers are so calm when discussing numbers. They don't justify the price. They contextualize it against the ongoing cost of doing nothing. This brings us to the next level of psychological warfare. Principle 5 is, no is not rejection. It is incomplete awareness. The weak hear a no and retreat to nurse their ego. The powerful hear a no and begin a diagnosis. Rejection only feels personal if you are still looking for a parent's approval. In the real world, a refusal is rarely a final verdict on you or your product. It is a signal that the frame is unfinished, the value is still abstract, or the pain of inaction hasn't been made undeniable yet. Most sellers collapse at the first sign of resistance because they think the buyer has actually evaluated the offer and found it wanting. This is almost never the case. People do not reject what they fully understand. They reject what feels risky or foggy. Machiavelli understood that resistance emerges where clarity is missing. Subjects rebel when a ruler's intent is unclear, and buyers hesitate when the outcome is blurred. You are not being rejected. Ignorance is simply protecting itself from a perceived threat. Consider how the elite tech billionaire Peter Thiel evaluates a no. When he was first pitching the concept of digital currency or radical software, people called it impossible. He didn't try to persuade them with charm. He provided the revelation of how the world had already changed. The correct response to resistance is not more talk, it is more evidence. What does the buyer not yet see? Is it the speed of the results, the mechanism of change, or the certainty that others like them have already crossed the bridge? Until the missing piece is exposed, their refusal is actually a rational defense mechanism. This is why demonstrations always outperform explanations. Seeing compresses belief. Evidence commands trust while words only ask for it. Machiavelli warned against reacting emotionally to resistance, as emotion clouds the strategic mind. A seller who takes a no personally shortens the process by walking away too soon. A seller who remains indifferent extends the frame until the buyer either sees the light or disqualifies themselves. This patience is a form of power. It signals that you do not need the deal to survive. That indifference is the ultimate form of leverage. Before we move into the final principles of the silent victor and the mechanics of the inevitable yes, let's lock in this mindset. Realizing that you are a guide for capital, not a beggar for it, is the threshold of the top 1%. To affirm your commitment to this path, I want you to take a quick second to engage. Type the word leverage in the comments right now if you are ready to stop persuading and start positioning yourself where the power resides. Everything you desire in this life, wealth, status, and impact, resides behind a yes that has not yet been spoken. The powerless wait to be chosen, hoping that their merit will eventually be recognized by some benevolent authority. The powerful understand that opportunity is rarely discovered. It is granted to those who know how to move others to agreement. Machiavelli understood this with a cold, brutal clarity. Power does not reward virtue, it rewards those who act. Principle 6 is, everything you want lies behind a yes. Most people believe that opportunity is a stroke of luck, but in reality, a yes is a construction. It is the result of context, clarity, and confidence applied in a specific sequence. When a person hesitates, it is rarely because they lack the desire. It is because they lack the certainty to move. Your task is to remove every excuse for delay. Machiavelli warned that indecision is more dangerous than error. In the world of high stakes, hesitation is the enemy because it preserves stagnation. To sell anything, you must understand this law. People move when someone else holds the vision more firmly than they do. Consider the story of a high-level hedge fund manager seeking $1 billion commitment from a sovereign wealth fund. He doesn't ask, "What do you want to do?" He presents a path so narrow and so logical that the investor feels foolish for standing still. He frames the yes as an alignment with the investor's own identity as a winner. Many people resist a deal not because of the money, but because they fear the version of themselves that follows, the one that is now accountable and exposed. Weak sellers stop at logic, but strong sellers address this identity shift. They make the yes feel like a homecoming. If you want to continue mastering this architecture of command, subscribe to the channel now and join a growing community of men who are done with being spectators. We are building a tribe of high performers dedicated to long-term value and the mastery of self-rule. This leads to the discipline that separates the elite from the masses. Principle 7 is, the rich practice while the poor hope. Hope is the religion of the powerless. Practice is the discipline of those who intend to win. Most people admire talent because it gives them an excuse for their own failure. Machiavelli would dismiss this immediately. Power is never accidental. It is engineered through relentless repetition. Selling is a mechanical skill, and like a soldier's rifle, it is sharpened in times of peace so it functions in times of war. Think of a figure like Kobe Bryant or a top-tier trial lawyer. They don't wait for the big game to find their motivation. They treat every interaction as a training ground. They rehearse their intent before they speak. They decide the outcome before they enter the room. This repetition replaces uncertainty with pattern recognition. Once you have seen an objection 1,000 times, it no longer intimidates you. It becomes a familiar hurdle you've already cleared. Confidence isn't bravado. It is simply the memory of having done the work. One of the most potent weapons in this arsenal is the mastery of the void. Principle 8 is, know when to be silent. The weak talk to feel safe, filling every gap with explanations and reassurances that only serve to erode their authority. The powerful fall silent to take control. Machiavelli warned that those who speak too much reveal their insecurity, and in a high-stakes deal, silence is pressure. When you have stated your value, any additional words are just justifications, and justification belongs to the accused, not the authority. Look at the negotiation tactics of modern titans like Elon Musk or legendary deal-makers. After stating a difficult truth or a high price, they stop speaking. They allow the silence to do the work. The silence acts as a vacuum that the other person feels compelled to fill with their own concessions. It signals that you do not need the deal to survive. That indifference is the ultimate form of leverage. It shifts the burden of action to the buyer. They must speak, they must decide. Finally, we must address the fear of the fumble. Principle 9 is, no single mistake kills a deal. The weak fear mistakes, while the powerful assume recovery. Most men sell as if they are walking on glass, terrified that one wrong word will shatter the transaction. But power is not fragile. Only illegitimacy is. Rulers survive errors by controlling the narrative afterward. If you fumble a detail, regain your composure instantly. Resilience creates more confidence than perfection ever could. Buyers forgive errors, but they never forgive weakness. In the end, the one who sells well always stands above. You are not taking power. You are accepting it because the structure you built makes it inevitable. You reduce confusion, remove hesitation, and collapse the time between desire and decision. In doing so, you assume the responsibility that most men are too afraid to carry. That responsibility is heavy, but it is also the source of your wealth and your command. Stand above. Decide calmly. Let the rest of the world follow. To lock in this mindset of absolute action, I want you to do one thing. Type the words, "Act now" in the comments as a simple affirmation that you are no longer waiting for permission to lead. The mastery of these 9 principles is what separates those who are sold to from those who lead the sale. But understanding them is not enough. You must inhabit them. Most people will watch this, feel a momentary surge of clarity, and then retreat back into the comfort of their old hesitations. They will continue to seek approval, over-explain their worth, and wait for a yes that will never come. You have a choice. You can remain a spectator to your own life, or you can join a growing community of men who are building a new architecture of command. By subscribing to this channel, you aren't just hitting a button, you are making a strategic reassignment of your attention. You are choosing to surround yourself with the language of the top 1% and the cold pragmatism of the world's most successful strategists. We provide the exits for those trapped in the mediocrity of the masses. If you are ready to stop hoping for opportunity and start engineering it, subscribe now. Join the tribe of the sovereign. We don't just teach you how to sell, we teach you how to rule.